She set up a network that links more than 64 million homes in the United States. She was last seen early on May 7, 2026. First, let's be clear about something. All of the information in this story comes from sources that can be trusted. This includes the Roy's Report, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Dallas Morning News, the official Daystar Television Network Instagram post, and public comments made by family members on X, which used to be Twitter. Allegations will be labeled as such if they haven't been proven or are being challenged yet. This is not sensationalism. It is a voiceover that is spiritual and investigative in the spirit of the truth. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in the Lamb family during this hard time. When the Daystar Television Network posted a message on Instagram early Thursday morning, May 7, 2026, everything in the Christian world stopped. Along with the dates July 19, 1960, and May 7, 2026, the announcement said, "With heavy hearts, we share the news that Joni Lamb graduated to heaven this morning. We know that she is in the presence of Jesus, reunited with Marcus, and receiving her reward for a beautiful life lived in surrender to the Lord." In just a few hours, that post was shared on thousands of platforms, talked about in pulpits around the country, and cried over in living rooms around the world. Joni Lamb, 65, was the co-founder, president, executive director, and lifeblood of Daystar Television. A time period ended quickly. To understand how terrible this loss is, you need to know about the woman. Joni Trammell was born on July 19, 1960, in Greenville, South Carolina. She would become one of the most important people in the history of Christian broadcasting. In 1982, she married preacher Marcus Lamb, and the two of them were very powerful. In 1984, a single TV station in Montgomery, Alabama, turned into something that no one could have imagined. In 1993, Marcus and Joni co-founded Daystar Television Network, and it started airing on New Year's Eve, 1997. By the time Joni died, Daystar had reached 64.7 million American homes, which was more than Trinity Broadcasting Network's 47.3 million. The network also claimed to have a global presence with 2.3 billion homes and billions of viewers around the world. It was a big ministry, and Joni Lamb was its lifeblood. Her daily half-hour show, Joni Table Talk, won 10 Telly Awards, 3 Lone Star Emmy Awards, 6 more Lone Star Emmy nominations, and 5 Daytime Emmy nominations. She co-hosted Ministry Now, the most popular live show that lasted an hour. At a time when the secular world was dismissing religious broadcasting, she backed faith-based media and did interviews with both leaders of state and ministers of the gospel. She was huge, according to everyone who knew her. But giants can feel sad too, and Joni Lamb had felt the deepest kind of sadness before this last part even began. Her husband of almost 40 years, the father of her 3 children, and the person who had supported her since the start of Daystar, Marcus Lamb, died of COVID-19 complications on November 30, 2021, at the age of 64. He had been a vocal opponent of COVID-19 vaccines, which got national attention from ABC, NBC News, NPR, and the New York Times. He died very quickly, shockingly, and in public. While the world watched Daystar mourn the loss of its founder, Joni had to keep her job as the head of a billion-dollar Christian media empire. She kept sending. For the cameras, she kept smiling. She kept getting closer to the Lord. But somewhere deep down, something had quietly broken. Even the most dedicated observer could never fully understand how Joni Lamb was tested in the years after Marcus's death from the outside looking in. According to the Roy's Report, her pay at Daystar rose by almost 140% during that time, to more than $1 million per year. The network she now ran on her own was much bigger, more controversial, and more closely watched than before. Dr. Doug Weiss is a famous therapist from Colorado Springs who had been on Daystar shows before he married Joni Lamb on June 10, 2023. She called the marriage the Lord's provision, and a new phase of love and ministry collaboration. Doug Weiss joined her as a co-host on Ministry Now, and the two were outspoken and seemed to share a religion and mission. The Lamb family's remarriage left a scar that has never fully healed. Jonathan Lamb, her oldest son and former vice president at Daystar and co-host of Ministry Now, was against the union. 4 years, Jonathan, his mother, and his wife Susie have been fighting. According to the Roy's Report and writer Julie Roy's investigative piece, Jonathan and Susie had accused Joni of hiding their 5-year-old daughter's alleged sexual assault by a male Lamb family member. Joni strongly denied these claims. After refusing to sign a non-disclosure agreement, Jonathan said he was demoted and then fired from Daystar on November 16, 2024, for what the network called poor performance and judgment. In June 2023, Jonathan's wife Susie was fired from her show The Green Room. The Colleyville Police Department in Tarrant County, Texas, looked into the abuse claims but did not press any charges. The case was closed in May 2025, but the police said they would reopen the investigation if the child made an official report of sexual abuse, which is called an outcry. The church and the family were both broken, and Joni Lamb wrote about all of that in her last book. People knew something wasn't right before Daystar made an official statement. 4 years, Joni Lamb was a daily live presence on Ministry Now. Then all of a sudden, she was gone. Dr. Doug Weiss showed up by himself, and more often than not, her daughters Rebecca Lamb Weiss and Rachel Lamb Brown filled in. There was a lot of speculation on social media. Was it a stroke? Was it cancer? Had she been through something that no one wanted to talk about in public? Then, about 4 weeks before she died, Doug Weiss went on TV to talk about the problem. According to data from the Cleveland Clinic, between 60 and 75% of all spinal compression fractures happen at the thoracic-lumbar intersection, which is where Joni had 2 hairline fractures. He asked for prayers and said she was resting and healing. It wasn't enough for many people, though, after seeing the videos that went viral, which showed Joni's face looking swollen and her speech supposedly slurred. People commenting on different platforms made guesses about a stroke, cancer, or something much worse than a back problem that wasn't mentioned. What they said was true. Daystar's official statement after her death made it clear that the back problem was not the whole story. The network said, before her recent back injury, Lamb had been dealing with serious health issues that she chose to face head-on and in private. The back injury made things even harder and caused a worse medical scenario than anyone thought possible. Daystar did not say what those earlier big health problems were. The exact cause of death has not been made public, but the back injury has been confirmed. As of this recording, the cause of death is still a private matter. Joni Lamb was dying in her Bedford, Texas, home on May 6, 2026, and into the morning of May 7, 2026. Her husband Doug was there, as were her daughters Rachel and Rebecca. Her son Jonathan wasn't there, but it wasn't because he didn't want to be. According to information posted on X by his wife Susie Lamb, Jonathan did not know that his mother was dying. "We weren't told anything," Susie wrote. "We were down the road but weren't given a call to say goodbye." In another tweet, she said, "They knew she was dying last night but didn't call Jonathan to come say goodbye." Someone who commented on Susie's X thread says that Daystar's lawyer, Tom Callender, was the one who finally called Jonathan to tell him that his mother had died. It wasn't his brother-in-law, daughter, or other family member. It was an attorney. That detail holds a pain that words can't fully describe. It didn't matter what happened between Joni and Jonathan, the accusations, the truths, or the silences. A son didn't get to hold his mother's hand as she left this world and entered the next. And in just 3 lines, his wife Susie wrote about both the sweetness and the pain of that moment. "Be afraid of the Lord." She wrote that her hands were shaking as she said it twice, and those words have a truly somber quality. This is a shuddering, sincere cry to everyone watching, including the Lamb family and the Daystar board. Be afraid of the Lord. Daystar wrote a full Instagram message about Joni's death, which was confirmed by the network's website. "Joni's love for the Lord and the people we serve has shaped this ministry from the start," the message said. The board said in a statement, "We mourn her loss and are grateful for the legacy of faith she leaves behind." The network made it clear that its mission had not changed, that programming would continue as usual, and that tributes would air on air in the days after her death. There were words of thanksgiving and grief. An effort was made to keep the institution running smoothly. The statement didn't name the person who is now in charge, it didn't talk about an executive or a president, and it didn't tell the public who would take over. When the Roy's report asked Daystar spokeswoman Chase Jennings for the names of the people who would now run the network, he didn't answer. The statement was a heartfelt tribute to Joni Lamb, but it wasn't clear what would happen next. Daystar has never been clear about its financial obligations, but the Roy's report made things even less clear on purpose. This is because, unlike Trinity Broadcasting Network, Daystar does not file a public IRS Form 990. This is because it is a ministry under the Word of God Fellowship Church organization and is not legally required to share its financial information with the public. The question of who runs Daystar has not been answered yet because the company does not have a named successor, a named top leadership team, or public financial records. The people who loved Joni Lamb should be able to understand the physical problem she had, so let's talk about the facts. Hairline fractures at T11 and L1 have been confirmed as serious injuries. The most biomechanically stressed part of the spine is the thoracic lumbar junction, where the more flexible lumbar region meets the stiff thoracic vertebrae. The Cleveland Clinic and NYU Langone say that fractures in this area are often caused by trauma, osteoporosis, or cancer that has spread to the bones. If there are no other diseases going on, these fractures are usually treated with rest, a rigid back brace, painkillers, and sometimes a minimally invasive surgery called kyphoplasty. In most cases, it takes up to 3 months for the bone to heal and another 3 to 12 weeks for the symptoms to go away. However, Daystar's statement makes it clear that Joni's situation was unusual. She had been having serious health problems behind closed doors, which the fractures made worse. The word compounded is very important because it means that the fractures did not cause the crisis, they only made it worse. During her most recent public appearances, her face looked noticeably swollen, and the official statement described a quick decline. Some onlookers also said they thought she might have had neurological symptoms. There have been persistent and widespread rumors about cancer, but Daystar hasn't confirmed or denied them. It's also unclear if her family will ever give a full medical explanation. According to Daystar's own public statement, it's clear that she was dealing with a serious problem in private long before the fractures became a problem. And once the ultimate decline began, whatever it was enough to take her away in a few days. Some of the most painful questions about Joni Lamb's death may never have an answer. Did she make peace with Jonathan before she died? According to all accounts, the answer is no, or at least not in the way that a mother and son should have been able to. She didn't call Jonathan to her bedside, he didn't hold her hand, and he didn't say goodbye. The public doesn't know if Joni sent her son a last message, or if they talked on the phone or sent texts in the weeks before. What they do know is that the distance was real, deep, and institutional, made stronger by the fact that each person kept quiet and by the legal team, board, and communication infrastructure of a television network. Susie Lamb's words, "We forgive them," are one of the most subtly powerful in the story. It's not easy to forgive when you've been left out, when rejection has made your pain worse, or when you haven't been called to say goodbye to your own mother. It's a very gracious act, and it serves as a reminder to those of us watching that as Christians. We are expected to forgive, let go, and show mercy even when it hasn't been shown to us. These rules don't change just because someone is famous, a ministry is big, or an organization has power. Susie Lamb stood on the level ground at the cross and wrote with shaking hands. Now let's answer the clear question that everyone has. Who runs Daystar? Previously, Lamb worked with the board to ensure an executive leadership team was in place so that the ministry would continue uninterrupted. That's it. There are no titles, names, or due dates for a public announcement. Based on what we've seen, Rachel Lamb Brown, Joni's daughter from her marriage to Marcus, has become more visible on TV lately. She hosts more shows on Ministry Now and other networks, and she's likely to stay in a public spotlight. Rebecca Lamb Weiss, Joni's youngest daughter, has also been very active on Daystar, most recently as a host on the redesigned Table Talk format. She married J.W. Weiss, Doug's son from a previous marriage. Joni's ex-husband Doug Weiss is another. As her surviving spouse, he has both personal and possibly institutional standing. He co-hosted Ministry Now and is now the surviving spouse of the woman in charge of the network. He was the one who told everyone about Joni's spinal fractures, but it's not clear if he will take on a formal leadership role. There have been disagreements about his professional background. In 2002 and 2010, the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy warned him about some of his actions. Also, the Roy's report says that some of his former clients said they had terrible therapy sessions with him. These are not small details. Anyone who wants to judge Daystar's leadership in the future should look at them because they are public information. The Roy's report made it clear that Jonathan Lamb, the only son and former vice president, probably won't go back to work for the company because of how bad the disagreement is and how he was fired. The minister's comments and the grief will soon give way to a very real fact. Joni Lamb owns 7 homes in 4 states worth a total of about $11.7 million, according to the Roy's report, public documents, and reports from the Trinity Foundation. These included a $2.9 million, 7,358 square foot house in Colleyville, Texas. A $3.9 million house is being built on a 2-acre lot in the same gated community. A $2.9 million condo with a view of the Gulf of Mexico in Miramar Beach, Florida, and a waterfront home in Granbury, Texas for $814,000. There were also homes in Taylor, South Carolina, Monroe, Georgia, and Grapevine, Texas. Sources like Bollywood Shadis and Times Now News say that the total value of her personal property, which includes ministry-related items, has grown to as much as $40 million. Legal experts and regular people have started publicly debating whether and how much Jonathan is included in Joni's will, given how badly Jonathan and Susie Lamb got along for a long time. Jonathan's firing and the anger over the abuse claims all point to the possibility that Joni may have made an estate plan that didn't help her oldest child. It remains to be seen if this leads to a court challenge and what Doug Weiss's role is under Texas marital property law as surviving spouse. However, the financial questions are coming. They are real, just like the sadness. It wouldn't be fair to talk about Joni Lamb's death without also talking about how unstable Daystar was as president. From 2024 to 2026, more than 30 major partner ministries left the network. Religion News Service said this departure rate was unusual and directly linked to the Daystar scandals. These ministries included Jack Hibbs, Joseph Prince, Jack Graham, Greg Laurie, and Joyce Meyer. These are big names in Christianity around the world. In some cases, their quiet exits were explained as simple contract expirations. However, the fact that more than 30 ministries left a single network in a short amount of time speaks for itself. People thought Joni Lamb's prayer on live TV in February 2025 was an imprecatory prayer because she asked God to punish the network's enemies twice. The Roy's report called the prayer a voodoo prayer in a headline that caused a lot of debate, and many people didn't agree with the prayer. Even though people were leaving, fighting, praying for bad things to happen, the family breaking up, the police investigation, people breaking their backs, and getting sick, Daystar kept broadcasting. The cameras kept rolling, and the gospel kept spreading. That is both the network's tension and its testament in a strange and complex way. The mission lived on, but the price of its survival is still being worked out. Anyone who says they know for sure what will happen to Daystar now is just guessing. But this is what we can expect based on logic, history, and things we can see. There will soon be memorial shows and on-air tributes to Joni Lamb's life and work on the network. According to Daystar's official statement, there will be a memorial service, but the date and location have not been made public yet. The family has asked that funeral details be kept private. Rachel Lamb Brown is likely to be the main public face of leadership because of her fame, family name, and father's heritage. In the coming weeks, the board, whose members are anonymous and whose decisions are protected by Daystar's status as a non-profit church, will be in charge. In the coming months, one of the most anticipated events in Christian media will be whether Doug Weiss pursues or accepts a formal institutional post. If Jonathan wants to get back with the network, it will depend on who takes over as Daystar's next leader instead of his mother, who has died. That is a complicated and very human issue. A son's complaints don't go away when his mother dies. A cover-up allegation isn't resolved by death. Death doesn't undo a firing, cancel a non-disclosure agreement, or fix a relationship that was tragically and publicly broken. According to the words Susie Lamb wrote with shaking hands the morning her mother-in-law died, this family and network can only move forward by telling the truth and being responsible. This is the only way forward, but it costs a lot and is very important. Fear the Lord. In times like these, Moses' prayer in Psalm 90 comes to mind. Lord, you have been our home for all generations. You are God from the beginning of time, before the mountains were made or the earth was made. Return to dust, you mortals. In your eyes, 1,000 years are just a few hours, like a watch in the night. Joni Lamb made something huge. From TV stages, she invited everyone to meet Jesus, and despite its problems, she ran a network that brought God's name into billions of homes. She mourned Marcus and loved him. Even when love got hard and terrible, she still loved her kids. She kept going after getting married again. And at age 65, she closed her eyes in her Bedford, Texas, home early on May 7, 2026, and disappeared. Everything was left behind, including the cameras, awards, satellite feeds, television contracts, and real estate. She stood alone in front of the Lord, just like the rest of us. According to the Daystar release, She and Marcus have gotten back in touch. It's nice to think that, and those of us who follow the religion she declared do believe it. But the story she leaves behind is more complicated. Also, complex stories need more than just tributes. They need honesty. When repentance is needed, they demand it. They demand the kind of reckoning that is good for the soul but not for TV. Finally, we get to you. To everyone who watched, grew up watching Joni Table talk on TV, prayed for her recovery, and was hurt by what happened at Daystar and wonders if anyone in charge ever pays attention, shows concern, or gives an account, your voice counts in this discussion. Not as rumors or condemnation, but as the body of Christ doing its job, telling the truth in love, grieving with those who grieve, and holding each other to the standards set by the gospel. What do you think? Have you seen Joni Lamb? Has her ministry changed your life? Do you think Daystar can rebuild trust, or is the rift too big? Do you still think Jonathan and the network can make things right now that Joni has left? Most importantly, what do you think the Lamb family owes the church? What does the Lamb family owe the church? We want to talk to you. We are praying for Jonathan and Susie Lamb as they deal with their loss and being pushed to the sidelines. We are also praying for Rachel and Rebecca as they take on the impossible task of succession. Finally, we are praying for Daystar's viewers who believe in the network and have a moral need for accountability. And we ask the Lord to say the same words over Joni Lamb's grave. Good job, loyal and helpful helper. Now go to sleep, Joni. The screen will keep going and people will ask questions.